vision, here it is, a vision came of higher realms than ours, a consciousness of brighter fields and skies. So we'll begin there, but I will first ask you to concentrate and pray to the divine for understanding and devotion to Savitri. There is so much that I'm going to share in the future weeks about what the Mother has said on Savitri, Purani, Nolini, and others. Let us concentrate. A vision came of higher realms than ours, a consciousness of brighter fields and skies. Sri Aurobindo has so much to tell us about this word consciousness that I could take up the whole session just quoting him. But we have so much to cover that I can only do one or two things, but I would recommend that all of you try to look into the letters on yoga and the Life Divine, where he explains so much about consciousness. I'll just give you a couple. Ordinarily, we mean by it our first obvious idea of a mental waking consciousness, such as is possessed by the human being during the major part of his bodily existence. When he is not asleep, stunned, or otherwise deprived of his physical and superficial methods of sensation. The word consciousness changes its meaning. It is no longer synonymous with mentality, but indicates a self-aware force of existence, of which mentality is a middle term. Below mentality, it sinks into vital and material movements, which are for us subconscious. Above, it rises into the supramental, which is for us the superconscious. Consciousness is not only power of awareness of self and things. It is or has also a dynamic and creative energy. And in the Life Divine, he says, for the essence of consciousness is the power to be aware of itself and its objects. And lastly, Mother says, consciousness is the faculty of becoming aware of anything through identification. The divine consciousness is not only aware, but knows and effects. And the next line, of beings less circumscribed than brief-lived men. When something is circumscribed, it's enclosed or restricted within limits. It's confined. And subtler bodies than these passing frames. Are we there on the, I'm not seeing it, Vladimir, on the...
I'm here.
And there it is, and subtler bodies than these passing frames. About 6 lines down from where you marked it. There it is. Of course, bodies are frames. Frames are bodies. So there are subtler bodies than our passing bodies. Objects too fine for our material grasp. Acts vibrant with a superhuman might. The superhuman, of course, for us is exceeding normal human ability or experience. And then Sri Aurobindo writes, and movements pushed by a superconscient force. And he writes, the superconscient is consciousness taken up into an absolute of being, life divine. There are sections that I will read to you that probably we don't need explanation. And these next 6 lines, I feel, are examples of that. And joys that never flowed through mortal limbs, and lovelier scenes than earth's, and happier lives. A consciousness of beauty and of bliss. A knowledge which became what it perceived, replaced the separated sense and heart, and drew all nature into its embrace. One day we will see, when the separated sense and heart are fully conscious of beauty and bliss, and our knowledge becomes what it perceives, and we draw all nature, capital N, notice, into our embrace. The mind leaned out to meet the hidden worlds. Air glowed and teemed with marvelous shapes and hues. In the nostrils quivered celestial fragrances. On the tongue lingered the honey of paradise. We remember from last Sunday all the experiences Aswapati was having when he lifted the heavy curtain of the flesh and silent and listening in the silent heart for the coming of the new and the unknown. And these 4 lines continue that extraordinary experience. So as his mind leans out to meet the hidden worlds, and what marvelous worlds they are, where he sees, feels, smells, and hears so much. Perhaps at times some of you have had these glimpses in some part of your being. For me, it was the hearing of the music of the spheres, a music unlike anything on earth, heavenly, angelic, transporting one into a new world's movement. Maybe some of you have had visions of Mother Sri Aurobindo or the gods. A channel of universal harmony, hearing was a stream of magic audience. The word audience is easily defined as the act of hearing, or attending the state of hearing, or being able to hear. So a channel of universal harmony, hearing is that channel. And it was a stream, an unending stream of magic audience, a bed for occult sounds earth cannot hear. These occult sounds, for me, are the guides for the Om Choir. And they are coming closer and closer to us. Or perhaps slowly we are opening more and more. Out of a covert tract of slumber self. Now, I checked all the British dictionaries on the word covert and its pronunciation. And I think I saw something like 10 or 12 different pronunciations of covert. So it could be covered or it could be covert. Covered, covert, both two syllables. What does it mean? It means secret or hidden from view or knowledge or not openly practiced or engaged in. It can also mean concealment, secrecy, like a covered place or shelter, a hiding place. Out of a covered tract of slumber self, the voice came of a truth submerged, unknown, that flows beneath the cosmic surfaces. We usually understand submerged as this first definition, under the surface of water or any other enveloping medium. But the second definition here might be more appropriate: hidden, covered, buried. We should review frequently these words Sri Aurobindo employs in Savitri and try to catch not only the outer, but the inner significance behind them. So here is the definition, because we just read that flows beneath the cosmic surfaces. Here is the definition of cosmic, and it usually means of or pertaining to the cosmos and characteristic of its phenomena as forming a part of the material universe, infinite. Sri Aurobindo gives us an interesting statement here from his letters on yoga. He says, there is no difference between the terms universal and cosmic, except that universal can be used in a freer way than cosmic. Universal may mean of the universe, cosmic in that general sense, but it may also mean common to all. That is, this is a universal weakness, but you cannot say this is a cosmic weakness. The next line, very powerful. Only mid an omniscient silence heard. Very often, Sri Aurobindo tells us that the omniscient is not born nor dies, nor has he come into being from anywhere, nor is he anyone. He is unborn, he is constant and eternal. He is the Ancient of Days, who is not slain in the slaying of the body. This is the omniscient, but here he's using it as an adjective, which means having total knowledge, knowing everything. Means God also, but he hasn't capitalized the O here. So in the secret of the Veda, and I know, Vladimir, you'll be very familiar with this, this is the omniscient who knows the law of our being and is sufficient to his works. Let us build the song of his truth by our thought, and make it as if a chariot on which he shall mount. When he dwells with us, then a happy wisdom becomes ours. With him for friend, we cannot come to harm. Held by intuitive heart and secret sense. Yes, we're taking quite some time to go through just a few words, but they're so important. What is intuitive? Well, it's obtained through intuition rather than from reasoning or observation. Figuratively, it concerns spiritual vision or perception. This voice of a truth submerged is a voice of love and oneness. and can only be heard in an omniscient silence and held by the intuitive heart and secret sense. It caught the burden of secrecies, sealed and dumb. Well, the burden is a weight that is to be borne. It's a load, something that is even emotionally difficult to bear. We have previously mentioned dumb, and here is Amal's note to me. Quote, Sri Aurobindo uses the word dumb in the sense of mute, but never of stupid or lacking in intelligence. I think the latter usage is more slang than literature. So dumb for us is always mute or silent. It voiced the unfulfilled demand of earth. Now, here voice is a verb, and it means to give utterance or expression to. And the song of promise of unrealized heavens and all that hides in an omnipotent sleep. Now, there's the passage that will take me a few minutes to share with you, but I just have to do it here because it's from Mother's words in her supreme discovery. Do you not know this, that the most sublime forces of the vasts seek to array themselves in the most opaque veils of matter? Oh, the sublime nuptials of sovereign love with the obscurest plasticities, of the shadows yearning with the most royal light. If ordeal or fault has cast you down, if you have sunk into the nether depths of suffering, do not grieve, for there, indeed, the divine love and the supreme blessing can reach you. Because you have passed through the crucible of purifying sorrows, the glorious ascents are yours. You are in the wilderness, then listen to the voices of the silence. The clamor of flattering words and outer applause has gladdened your ears, but the voices of the silence will gladden your soul and awaken within you the echo of the depths, the chant of divine harmonies. You are walking in the depths of night, then gather the priceless treasures of the night. In bright sunshine, the ways of intelligence are lit, but in the white luminosities of the night lie the hidden paths of perfection, the secret of spiritual riches. You are being stripped of everything. That is the way towards plenitude. When you have nothing left, everything will be given to you. Because for those who are sincere and true, from the worst always comes the best. Every grain that is sown in the earth produces 1,000. Every wing beat of sorrow can be a soaring towards glory. And when the adversary pursues man relentlessly, everything he does to destroy him only makes him greater. Hear the story of the worlds. Look, the great enemy seems to triumph. He casts the beings of light into the night, and the night is filled with stars. He rages against the cosmic working. He assails the integrity of the empire of the sphere, shatters its harmony, divides and subdivides it, scatters its dust to the four winds of infinity. And lo, the dust is changed into a golden seed, fertilizing the infinite and peopling it with worlds which now gravitate around their central center in the larger orbit of space, so that even division creates a richer and deeper unity. And by multiplying the surface of the material universe, enlarges the empire that it set out to destroy. Beautiful indeed was the song of the primordial sphere, cradled in the bosom of immensity. But how much more beautiful and triumphant is the symphony of the constellations, the music of the spheres, the immense choir that fills the heaven with an eternal hymn of victory. Here again, no state was ever more precarious than that of man when he was separated on earth from his divine origin. Above him stretched the hostile borders of the usurper, and at his horizon's gates watched jailers armed with flaming swords. Then, since he could climb no more to the source of life, the source arose within him. Since he could no more receive the light from above, the light shone forth at the very center of his being. Since he could commune no more with the transcendent love, that love offered itself in a holocaust and chose each terrestrial being, each human self, as its dwelling place and sanctuary. That is how, in this despised and desolate, but fruitful and blessed matter, each atom contains a divine thought. Each being carries within him the divine inhabitant. And if no being in all the universe is as frail as man, neither is any as divine as he. In truth, in humiliation lies the cradle of glory. We can apply Mother's words to many of the lines that follow. In the unceasing drama carried by time, yes, the drama that is carried by time is the drama of the evolutionary quest for the divine. On its long listening flood that bears the world's insoluble doubt, on a pilgrimage without goal, a semiotician, Roland Barthes, characterized the distinction between listening and hearing. Quote, hearing is a physiological phenomenon. Listening is a psychological art. We are always hearing, most of the time subconsciously. Listening is done by choice. Why is there insoluble doubt? The definition tells us that insoluble is incapable of being solved or explained. So, in the unceasing drama carried by time, on its long listening flood that bears the world's insoluble doubt, on a pilgrimage without goal, a laughter of sleepless pleasure foamed and spumed, and murmurings of desire that cannot die. Now, you see, Sri Aurobindo is so careful and so conscious in his use of words. Foamed means producing froth, like a mass of small bubbles in liquid. And spumed is, in the British sense, the foam or the froth on a liquid, as on the sea. And spumed, the verb, means foamed or frothed. And the next line, and murmurings of desire that cannot die. Well, we know what a murmur is, a low, continuous sound, as of a brook or the wind or trees, or of low, indistinct voices. And then from these murmurings of desire that cannot die, there come a cry of the world's delight to be. And we continue in this great passage, which I will read first, and then we can cover a few definitions. A cry came of the world's delight to be, the grandeur and greatness of its will to live, recall of the soul's adventure into space, a traveler through the magic centuries and being's labor in matter's universe, its search for the mystic meaning of its birth and joy of high spiritual response, its throb of satisfaction and content in all the sweetness and the gifts of life, its large breath and pulse and thrill of hope and fear, its taste of pangs and tears and ecstasy, its rapture's poignant beat of sudden bliss. Well, poignant, piercing, incisive, intense, stimulating. Could also be sharply distressing or painful to the feelings. The sob of its passion and unending pain. The murmur and whisper of unheard sounds, which crowd around our hearts but find no window to enter, swelled into a canticle. Now, a canticle is a song, a poem, or a hymn, especially one that is religious or praiseful in character. So all of this swells into a canticle of all that suffers to be still unknown, and all that labors vainly to be born, and all the sweetness none will ever taste, and all the beauty that will never be. Now, of course, we know now that all this will be as it has been promised to us by Sri Aurobindo and Mother. But there is still a long way to go in Savitri, and we have just begun. It is 11 now, but I'll take any questions if you have any, or any comments. Vladimir, would you want to say anything? We have a little time.
I don't know. No, I don't think so.
Okay. Anyone else with questions? It's a magnificent passage, isn't it? And in which we know that Aswapati is experiencing all of these things, and it's only the book of beginnings. We're only on page 30, I believe. And when this cry comes of the world's delight to be, and when everything swells into a canticle, and all that suffers to be is still unknown, and all that labors vainly to be born, and all the sweetness none will ever taste, and all the beauty that will never be. Well, that has been answered, and it will be answered even in greater depth as we progress in Savitri. Namaste, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Naradji.
Thank you, Narad.
Thank you, Naradji.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. You're so welcome.
Thank you, Naradji.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Narad,
Thank
can
you.
I ask a quick question with regards
you.
to the essence of this passage?
The essence of this passage?
Yeah, so the way I understand this is that Ashwapati is experiencing the cosmos, the cosmic consciousness. At the same time, he has one leg on earth wherein he feels the pangs and pains of earth. He's now trying to reconcile the two. Is that a good way to understand this passage?
I don't feel it goes that deeply yet, because he's only in the beginning of his tapasya. And he is listening to all these sounds, these cosmic voices, and it's the voice that comes from a submerged truth that flows beneath the cosmic surfaces that is speaking to him. But it can only be heard by that omniscient silence, and it can only be held by the intuitive heart and the secret sense. So it catches all of these things, it voices these things, it's a song of promise and everything that hides in omniscient sleep. So Ashwapati is experiencing all of this, but I think it will take us until the fifth canto when we see that he has control of it now. But then even after that, he has to climb the stairs. And there are 15 cantos in book 2 of this traveler of the upward way. And all that he has to see and even face, he has to go into the darkness and face the sons of darkness, the mother of evil. He has to bring light there. So he has a long way to go before he becomes the great seer. And Sri Aurobindo is showing that to us in this canto. And then, interestingly, of course, he puts the secret knowledge in between the two cantos of Ashwapati and the yoga of the king and the spirit's greatness. So we have a long way to go. And we will see this beauty, we will realize it, we will feel the sweetness. And that is their promise to us, that all of us who have turned to them will be with them eternally. I remember when Mother wrote to us about people who died in the ashram. She could see Sri Aurobindo's symbol on their forehead.
Oh, wow.
And there was that one lady who was so mean. and Mother saw his symbol there. And she said, her too? And Sri Aurobindo said, yes. Okay. See you next week.
Thank you so much, Narad.
You're
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.